Welcome to today's webinar, sponsored by OnApproach. My name is Pete Kears. I'm Senior Engagement Manager for OnApproach, and I'll be moderator for today's session. Our topic today is leveraging your data to engage the digital financial institution member. As branches empty and digital banking traffic expands, new engagement strategies are needed to help financial institutions uncover and serve individual member needs. Fintech providers are now able to provide target financial institution members with unique and personalized experiences. Our presenter today is Klacko, Chief Operating Officer of Micronotes. Christian is one of the co-founders of Micronotes. Before starting Micronotes, he was on the founding team of 3 other successful tech startups, including Nextel International and Akamai Technologies. He is a graduate of the Massachusetts Institute of Technology, Sloan School of Management, and he is a native of France and fluent in 4 languages. Luckily for me, your moderator today, whose college French is completely decrepit, he will be presenting in English today. There will be a Q&A at the end of the presentation, so feel free to ask questions via the chat or the questions function during the session, and I will read these during the Q&A. So with that, Christian, I'll turn the presentation over to you.
Well, merci beaucoup, as we say in French. Thank you for the introduction, Peter. Thank you for all of you for joining us today for this great webinar. It's actually a pleasure to be your presenter today, especially when it comes down to a topic that has been close to my heart for so many years. We do live in a fast-moving digital world that requires constant change and adaptation, especially in the financial service industry. As Pete mentioned, I started Micronotes about 7 years ago with the goal of helping financial institutions bridge the clicks to bricks divide, as I like to call it, mainly to focus on helping solve the digital engagement problem. So I'm thrilled that OnApproach asked me to share my thoughts today through this webinar. So what are we going to talk about today? We're talking about leveraging your data to engage the digital financial institution member. So we'll talk a little bit about data, how to use data to maximize engagement, and how to keep engagement high, especially as more and more traffic moves to the digital channels. We're going to talk about it on several levels. First, at the high level, what's going on at the industry level. And then we're going to drill down systematically to get some data point as to how to actually do that. So, to begin, let's talk about what's going on in retail banking today. So to make a long story short, I think everybody has seen this graph before, but digital is replacing bench traffic as the primary mode by which customers interact with their financial institution. And as you can see from the chart, the trend is pretty obvious. Online and mobile are forecasted to be the dominant channel for mostly banking functions. And the level of branch involvement is decreasing. So nothing new here, but it's great to keep this in mind for the overall context of the webinar. So another significant trend that is affecting the industry is the fact that the industry is consolidating rapidly. So 20 years ago, we had about 20,000 financial institutions in the US alone, about 12,000 banks, 8,000 credit unions. And today, that number is closer to 5,000 banks and 6,000 credit unions. And actually, analysts predict that this consolidation will continue, especially as virtual banking moves customers from the branches to the phones, the tablets, and the PCs. And this shift actually favors retail banking providers that can deepen customer relationships quickly through those new channels. where customers are increasingly choosing to bank. Now, what you want to ask yourself is, why does this shift favor excellence in engagement and cross-selling? And the answer is pretty simple. It's because customers with more products and services are both more profitable and stay longer. So let's actually dive a little bit into that. Let's take a quick look at some data here. So here's a chart that plots the characteristics of customers at high and low risk of attrition. And as you can see, the plot clearly shows that one of the common characteristics of customers at high risk of attrition, are the ones that have few accounts, few services like electronic banking, e-statement, bill pay, rarely have direct deposits, or actually have low or even actually negative checking balance. So if you can't cross-sell basic products to the customers, then you lose them. So why does this all matter? Well, because community banks and credit unions have been extremely successful at building and deepening relationships with their communities over the years. Branch visits and regular interactions have been, let's call it the bread and butter to building relationship with those customers, especially when you're trying to understand their needs and preferences. However, given that most visits are now taking place through the digital channels, how can community banks and credit unions keep those relationships alive with digital banking customers? So it's an important question. And so what does it matter? Really, because if you don't, then someone else that has a much bigger digital advertising budget will. And if an institution loses too many customers, then really it's game over. So the question is, how do you engage customers in these new environments, and how can you derive more business from your current customers? So one thing is clear is that cross-selling is one great way to deepen relationship. Deepening relationship is all about making sure that your customers remain loyal to you, and that they keep their primary banking relationship with you, especially when it comes to banking. It's something that, when you think about it, is becoming more and more difficult when you think about all the banners and emails coming from competitors trying to poach those customers away from you. So let's talk a little bit about the rationale for cross-selling. It's becoming an imperative to stay in business and to deepen relationship. The good news is that cross-selling today is cheaper, faster, easier, and more profitable than acquiring a customer. And let's see why. Dick Kovacevic said it best. The cost of selling a product to an existing customer is only 10% of selling the same product to a new customer. And for those of you who do not know Dick Kovacevic, he was the former CEO of Wells Fargo, and he's actually one of the pioneers of cross-selling. He implemented that cross-selling culture at Wells Fargo for years. And as you know, today, Wells Fargo is not only the most profitable financial institution, but also the one with the greatest assets. So at least they were until, I guess, the little incident that happened a few months ago. So why is it faster? Well, if you look at actual data, and what you see here is actually real data from our customers, you can see that service traffic actually dominates the traffic that comes to your website. 3/4 actually of your visits are from your own customer. So it's really important to take advantage of that traffic, because that's most of the traffic that you have. It's also much easier to cross-sell. Why? Well, there's plenty of cross-selling to be done. If you look at a typical household, most of us actually have, on average, about seven and a half financial products. And when you look at how many products each institution has with each customers, it's actually less than 3. To be exact, it's actually around 2.5. So there's definitely a big gap here between what the portion of the wallet share that an institution have compared to the total amount of products, financial products that you available. So there's really a lot of cross-selling to do, and it's really easy to do. It's also more profitable. If you go back to the Wells Fargo example, what we have learned from their success story is that adding a few products per household will actually raise profitability by a factor of 2, 3, or even 6 when your customers start owning 10 or more financial products. As a rule of thumb, if your customers, or if you own about 4, or if your customers have 4 of their products with you, then they are not anymore at risk of attrition. So let's take a step back and look at cross-selling. So in a perfect world, when we talk about cross-selling, this is what we have in mind. We have customer knowledge, which is basically we know stuff about our customers. We invite our customers to come into branches. Once they come in, we greet them, they sit down with us, we have a conversation, we ask them a few questions to really understand their needs and preferences. We give them advice, we educate them on some of the products, and hopefully, by the time they leave the branch, we were able to make them a relationship-based offer. Now, that's what's happening in branches. Now, of course, how do we replicate this in the digital channels? And in the digital channels, things look a little bit different, right? Tools have evolved, and those new tools that users have access to, bring new challenges. So what are those challenges? The engagement challenges are pretty well understood in the marketing industry. My favorite one is actually the one on the left, called banner blindness, meaning that really a significant portion of the population doesn't even see banners anymore. Research shows actually that you can show customers banners even in a lab setting, and if you ask them 3 minutes later about those banners, they're going to say, "What banner?" They're just blind to the banner, and that's a real problem for banner advertising, even if it's well targeted. And of course, if you say, "Well, we can send an email," I don't know about you, but my inbox is just hammered with emails that I don't want. And so if those marketing technology companies, have it their way, then it will be 99 spam emails for every 1 good relevant email. And that just doesn't seem like a great way to engage customers. So while cross-selling is an easy way to deepen relationship with customers, it's still important to figure out how you're going to take advantage of the 171 online yearly visits from your customers and turn them into conversations. Well, what should you do about this? Well, let me tell you what we think you should do. Actually, we do this every day here at Micronotes, and actually we get some pretty good results. So the first thing we do is to machine learn our audiences. So what exactly does that mean? Well, we basically ingest a data file from each financial institution, and then we machine learn the audience. In the old days, you may have looked at, in this particular example, at a population of 75,000 people that might be potentially interested in an auto loan campaign. And you may say, well, let's send flyers to everybody who doesn't have an auto loan with us, which means the 63,000 people here. So there are a couple of problems with this approach. You may move the number of your target audience from 75,000 to 63,000, but there are going to be a lot of those people who are not in the market right now for an auto loan. And on the other hand, you probably will have people who already have an auto loan with you, but are buying a second car. So this is not a very sophisticated way to decide who you should talk to about an auto loan. Now, a better way to do this is to machine learn the audience, which means basically show me the people who look an awful like the people who we sold an auto loan to recently. And if you do that, you'll find out that the number is much, much smaller. And actually the likelihood that they will engage with you, respond to questions on an auto loan is much higher. You can basically bring it down from that 63,000, which is quasi-spam, to 160 people and have very targeted conversation with those people. So machine learning is really the first step that we suggest you do using the data that's available to you. Now, the next thing we do is instead of throwing out an ad, we actually ask those customers a question. For instance, in this particular case, we're targeting everybody that has an auto loan score greater than 50%, and we're asking them, are you looking to buy and finance an automobile? And from that question, actually, a couple of things can happen. We are either right, and the customer says, yes, actually, I am on the market for a car. And we may go about asking follow-up questions about how they would like to move forward with the loan. Do they want to apply for it online? Or do they want to be pushed into a loan engine? Do they want to be contacted? Basically, asking a few follow-up questions. And the whole process of understanding the customer's needs and preference takes about 10 seconds. So occasionally, we make mistakes, in which case the customer says, well, I'm not looking to buying a new car. And in that case, it's very easy if we have follow-up questions that ask them if they are a candidate for refinancing their current automobile loan. And you'd be surprised, but many of them are. And then when we ask them how they would like to move forward, they will also tell you that they either would like to apply directly or be contacted by someone from the institution. So same idea here. No matter what path the conversation takes, the whole process takes about 10 seconds, which is a totally different experience than trying to send people to landing pages. So step 3, and probably the most important strategically, is to learn from the mistake and do that in an automated fashion, which is really a representation of what machine learning is all about. So let me take a few seconds here and unpack this for you. So let's say we have a population of people to whom we want to talk about an auto loan. So we run a clever algorithm which draws a function called classification functions that separates people into 2 buckets. So in this particular case, it would be the blue line. And the people above the blue line are the ones we want to talk to, and the people below the blue line are the ones we don't want to talk to, because these people have actually a lower propensity of buying a car. The ones above the blue lines are the ones who look more like people to whom we have sold auto loans to them in the past. So say we go out and we talk to all these people, and all these people say, yeah, we're interested. And some will turn into leads, some will turn into customers, but there are a few of them actually who will say no. And these are the mistakes. And actually you can see here the mistakes are the ones that are delineated in an end. The great news is, that those mistakes are written back into our database. And they train the machine learning also to exclude those people who look like nose the next time we machine learn an audience for an auto loan. So essentially, what it looks like is that we are drawing a new line, the orange line, which excludes the two people. So what ends up happening at the end of the day, over time, after you do this for a longer period of time, you end up doing less marketing and generating more leads and sales. And is that the dream of every marketer? One impression, one interaction, one sale, as opposed to a million impressions, one interaction, one sale. This is how you can get to that point. And actually, we have found out in practice that it works very well. So, at Micronotes, we like to put forward the data that substantiates those claims. So here's an example. This is 2 years worth of data from one of our customers. This customer has about 65,000 online users. And these are their engagement rates. As you can see, it's probably an average of about 28%. So what does it mean? It means that 28% of the entire online population on a given month takes at least one interview on the Micronotes platform. And that turns out to be about 1.5 million conversations over a 2-year period, which generated 37,000 leads and 1.5 million responses, which were fed back into the machine. And that's actually something terrific. Let me take a step back and actually let me show you exactly what the user experience is when you engage them online. So I'm going to exit out of here, and I'm going to show you a quick demo. I just need to go back in. Here we go. Great. So I am going to show you what an auto loan interview looks like when you log in and outside of online banking. So this is your typical online banking. You can actually transfer funds, make payments, and you can see that right here, instead of having a banner ad, we have a targeted question. Again, the audience was machine learned, and the machine said, this is the best question that we need to ask a question today, right? And the question is, hi there, are you looking to buy and finance a car? And if I say, well, you know what, actually you guys were wrong, I'm not interested, so I'm gonna say no, well, here's the opportunity to have a conversation about refinancing. So here, the next question is, do you currently have a balance of $5,000 or more on an auto loan with a competing financial institution? And if I happen to say, actually, yes, I do, well, here's an opportunity for you or for my financial institution to tell me a little bit more about the product that you have available and how I can save some money. And I'm giving you several choices. Yes, please call me. I'll apply online. No thanks. And if I say yes, please call me, I can actually make sure that you have my correct phone number in the database. Press submit. And now what happens, there's an email that's automatically sent to the financial institution, basically telling them, Christian is interested in refinancing an auto loan with us. He would like someone to call him. Please call him. His phone number is 617-555-1212. So as you can see, this took about 10 seconds. I remained inside my online banking session, and I really got to self-fulfill the way I wanted to. There are many ways of having conversations with your online banking customers. You can do it in session, something they see when they log in. We have found that having actually those conversations at log out are better. People are more receptive. So once they finish their online banking, they sign out. And as you can see, there's a beautiful window that opens up here. And same idea, a targeted question. In this particular example, it's the same question, but I think you get the idea. You can just answer the questions depending on your needs and preference. And this time say, you know what, I don't want anybody to call me. I like to apply online. And you can automatically send them to a page on your website where I can apply for the auto loan. So this is what the customer experience looks like. And what we have seen with our customers is actually pretty impressive. If you look at traditional performance metrics as a marketer, and traditional metrics are usually, click-through rate and conversion rates. You can see in this particular case, this is the case of a credit union with $5 billion in assets, that if you just replace a targeted banner ad, which had those results, and you replace those with a targeted interview, either I log in or log out, that you can see a factor of 10 improvement. And actually with log out, you'll see a factor of 100 improvement. And if you look at conversion rates, which are the number of leads that were created or divided by the number of impressions, you get about a factor of 2 or 3, depending where that conversation took place. And just a quick note, this improvement is mainly due to speed, because remember, as you saw in the demo, we do not load landing pages. And because we don't load landing pages, the experience is much faster. It takes about 10 seconds, where if you start loading landing pages, you're looking at 45 seconds user experience, and you get a lot of drop-off. Now, if you multiply those two numbers, the click-through rate and the conversion rate, in marketing jargon, we call this the yield. And the yield basically is, the definition of the yield is, how many leads did I generate for each square inch of digital real estate available, right? And if you do that computation, you get an improvement of, between 33x and 350x. It's pretty good. So the message here is that you don't just get minor improvements by starting to ask questions to your customers online. You actually get an order of magnitude greater results in performance. Now, interestingly enough, it doesn't really matter whether this is a big bank, a small credit union. Take a look at those results. This is actually the results of one mega bank, and it was actually done in a different language. This was done at the Crédit Agricole in France, which is the 5th largest bank in the world, and the interviews were actually done in French. So we still here saw a yield improvement of 68, factor of 68. So the process of asking questions really is indifferent, from size and language, culture, or whatnot. So when we talk about engagements and conversions and sales, what's really important to everybody are results, right? And the reason I bring it up is that every week I read blogs, from different marketing automation companies, marketing technology companies, and most of them never talk about results. What I mean by results are sales results, which is mind-boggling. They all talk about, how well you're doing in terms of engagements and click-through rate, but not sales. At Micronotes, we love to talk about sales, because at the end of the game, that's what we all want. We want sales. And what you see in front of you is an automated report that every customer receives at the end of every month. And it gives them some sense of, how many campaigns are running, how many leads were generated, how many products were sold, and actually even give you some comparative metrics that are more common, like click-through rate and average conversion rates. So all this is very nice, but I'm always asked, why is the fact that you're asking questions online is so successful? Why does it produce all those great results? Well, my answer is very simple. First of all, we're all familiar with this. Since we were kids, we were all taught how to answer multiple choice questions, and this is what it is. We ask you questions, you get 2 choices or 3 choices, and you choose the most appropriate answer. It's also faster. As I mentioned earlier, the fact that we don't load landing pages makes the experience so much faster, and people like fast. People think of it as Amazon. Today, when you look at e-commerce, Amazon is really what everybody's striving to be. 1 click, and my product is on its way. And that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to make the user experience so quick that within a few clicks, they can actually get to the product. It's also much smarter. Again, we train machines over and over as to what is the best conversation to have with each individual, with each customer at the financial institution. And it's very personalized, right? We have mathematical algorithm in the background that actually tells us what is the best personal offer we can make after we have discovered a need from a customer. So the last thing I want to share with you today is, or to state, is that we're not in any way, shape or form suggesting that you're not to do targeted value add email. That's not what we're suggesting here. What we're suggesting is that if you can engage your customers at the level that I've been describing here, what you can do then is take that data back, and you can use that to target ads and emails more appropriately. For instance, if someone states explicitly they're in market for mortgage, then it is appropriate that you send them maybe an email about your rate, or that you message them through a different channel about mortgage product that you have to offer, because at that point it will be relevant to the customer's life. And remember, those are customers who have explicitly stated needs, and that's the way that our platform works. So, in conclusion, if we go back to the beginning of this webinar, here are the facts, right? The industry is consolidating. The industry is consolidating, and what we're seeing is that deepening relationship and keeping customers is crucial for survivals. The old ways of trying to nurture relationships in branches doesn't work as well anymore because there's very few traffic going into branches. Engagement is crucial for survival. It is important that you get to engage your customers, that you personalize the offer, and for heaven's sake, let's make sure that we measure sales. All those efforts of trying to engage customers mean nothing if at the end of the day you cannot measure sales. So this is what I want to share with you today. I hope that you have enjoyed listening about different ways of engaging the digital customers, and I will turn it over to Pete for questions.
Thanks, Christian. Very interesting. Just invite the audience to submit any questions you like through the question function, and I will field those and speak those to Christian. A few here ahead of time. You talked about the ability to track sales, and can you explain how you do that?
Oh, sure. A great question. Whoever has that question. So the way we track sales is actually very simple. Remember that when we engage with a financial institution, the first thing we do, we ingest a marketing data file. So basically, every institution gives us data about their customers. The data can be as simple as what product they own to all kinds of demographic or account balances that you want to provide us. So we ingest that data file. Most of the time, it's an MCI file. And at time 0, we start targeting customers based on that MCI file. And then every month, financial institution update their MCI file. We ingest that new file, and then we basically compare the two tables, right? So if on January 1st, for instance, we receive a file and it says Christian does not have an auto loan, right? So we will target Christian for an interview. And if we see that Christian actually took the interview, accepted the offer to come in and get a loan with us, and we see that in the February 1 matrix file, Christian actually now has an auto loan, we automatically attribute that to the Micronotes platform, right? So in other words, a sequence of events has to happen from day 0 all the way to day 31st for us to say, this is a sale that was attributable to Micronotes. So every time customers send us files about all the products, about all the customers, it's very easy for us to track the sales.
Great. Does your machine learning happen across multiple credit unions, or is it just for that credit union, that financial institution in particular?
Oh yes, great question. So the machine, basically, we built a machine for every single institution. So the learning happens only for the institution, and that's for several reasons. First of all, because the data, every customer of ours have their own single database, right? So we don't mix databases, so there will be no way for us to write new data to someone else's database, right? But more importantly, every financial institution has a different way of launching campaigns and asking questions, right? So all the learning is done within each institution.
Okay. The question here, we're already using banner ads on our website, but how would we implement something like this? Great.
It's a great question. So you don't have to, to stop doing banner ads, as I mentioned in the webinar, right? What you can do is basically, what we do is we instantiate of iframe right inside your online banking or right at logout, in which we insert the questions. And actually, it's pretty simple. If today you have access to your campaign manager to insert a banner ad, you can very easily inject a little JavaScript that we will provide you that will do exactly that. That would identify who the user is, and if they're qualified for a particular campaign, it will instantiate an iframe, a window, in which there will be a question in there, right? So they can be running in parallel. We actually have a lot of customers who run those in parallel. And actually, we encourage you to do in parallel, because so you can actually start doing comparative metrics, click-through rating and conversion rates, from the banner ad and the interview question sitting right below.
Okay. If the attendees have any other questions, please feel to pass them along at this time. Well, at this point, I don't see any further questions. So, Christian, if any of the audience would like to get, I was going to ask you, get in touch with you, there's your information. We will also have this on if you respond to the email that we had sent out from OnApproach, you'll be able to, we can send that along as well. But it's micronotes.com. And so with that, Christian, any final thoughts?
Well, it was a pleasure to be able to share my thoughts on a topic, again, that's very close to my heart. And I want to thank you, Pete, for inviting me. And I look forward to, to answering any questions that you have, or if you ever have any digital engagement issues, feel free to give me a call. I'd be happy to see how we can help.
Okay, thanks, Christian. I hope everyone enjoyed today's session. A follow-up email will be sent to field any further questions and provide a link to pertinent information. This webinar was recorded, so that will be made available. I'd like to thank my colleague, Mark Ports, for handling all the behind-the-scenes work for the webinar. And again, Christian, thank you for your great information, and we thank everyone for participating in the webinar today. Have a great day. Goodbye.